There's just a couple of things you better check before you go any further. The first thing is with each of your JavaScript functions, which are connecting and relating to jQuery, you've got to make very sure that each of your divisions that you address are the actual names of those divisions. And you have to kind of keep track of everything. Essentially, each button, when you click it, it's making every division display, setting the property of display to none with its CSS properties, except for the property, the division that you want to show. One additional thing, with the resources division, you're going to want to make sure that scrolling is set to auto. The way to do that, if you go to positioning where it says overflow, you want to set that particular division to auto, because if you'll recall, the resource page is a very, very long page. It is longer than the actual height that we assign to the resources division. Now, if you want to see how this all looks, here it is in the browser, and right now if I click on page 1, you'll see page 1 load beautifully. If I click on resources, you'll see the resources page load, and it does one other thing. It adds a scroll bar because we set it to auto. And finally, if I click on the home button, it'll erase everything. It'll set the display to all of these containers to none except for itself, and it gradually fades in. So we're in real good shape. We only have a few more things to do, and we are totally done with this project. For the larger button, and I'll show you where that is, that's this particular SVG button. We've had to do a little bit more navigation here. If I go to source code, you'll see what we've done. That division was called call button, and what I did was I added a hover function for the ID SVG6 graphic, and similar to what I did with the other navigation buttons. But for the actual function itself, this time around, I did not need to use jQuery, so I simply used JavaScript, and I used the window.open function, and then in its parameters, I'm moving to my PDF folder where I have saved a report.pdf file, which is basically the content of my web page in a printable format. I called it report, and I set the width to 400, the height of the window to 400. I made the window resizable, and I made the window display scroll bars. This has to be done in quotes, by the way, because this is pure JavaScript. Here is the home page just about finished. At this point, if I click on page 1, you'll see that page 1 loads. If I click on resources, you'll see that the resource page loads. The resource page has its own scroll bar because it exceeds the limit of the resources container. And the links down at the bottom, of course, work. And finally, if we get to the home page again, if I click on this larger button right here, that's creating the pop-up window with the JavaScript, and it allows for the PDF file to be displayed in its own separate window, and that window is resizable and has a scroll bar. Pop-up windows are sometimes avoided, but for many sites a pop-up window is quite acceptable. Most people allow them once they know what they are.